In the last 3 years, an extraordinary shift occurred in the U.S. rental market. Rent prices didn't just rise, they surged dramatically, leaving many stunned. From Miami's sun-soaked coasts to Seattle's dreary skies, landlords suddenly seemed to hold all the power, driving rent hikes in some cases by hundreds of dollars overnight, expecting tenants to do whatever was necessary to keep a roof over their heads. However, by 2025, everything changed. The once powerful leverage landlords enjoyed is rapidly diminishing as the rental landscape shifts dramatically. Cities that once saw intense bidding wars and frantic apartment searches are now witnessing an oversupply of vacant units. For the first time in a decade, rent prices are not just falling, they are plummeting. The reason? Developers overestimated the demand. Investors stretched their resources too thin while chasing returns, and renters, who were once desperate for housing, have finally reached their limit. In major cities across the nation, rents are seeing steep declines, sometimes dropping by double digits. The once rare offers of discounts, move-in deals, and even the long-forgotten one-month free incentives are now back in full force. Landlords are scrambling to adjust, while tenants are suddenly in control of the market. The power balance in the rental market is shifting, and it's a turning point in America's housing scene. In today's video, we're diving deep into the top 10 U.S. cities where rent prices are crashing and landlords are panicking in 2025. Stick with us until the end, as the number one city on our list could reshape America's rental market for years to come. If you're interested in more cinematic insights into housing trends across the country, don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's get started. At number 10, we have Austin, Texas. Austin's meteoric rise in recent years is almost legendary, and its fall is proving just as remarkable. Between 2020 and 2023, Austin became the emblem of America's tech migration. Remote workers flocked to the city, bringing with them a wave of venture capital. Billion-dollar startups seeking cheaper ground turned their attention to the Texas capital. And for a time, it looked like Austin might truly be the next Silicon Valley. Construction cranes dotted the skyline, and luxury apartment buildings sprouted up seemingly overnight. Landlords took advantage of the surge, hiking rents at a rate that left longtime residents in shock. However, by 2025, that sizzling growth came to a halt. Rent prices have fallen by around 14% year over year, one of the steepest declines in the Sunbelt region. Many of those upscale buildings, once touted as symbols of Austin's bright future, are now partially vacant. Rooftop pools, once teeming with people, now echo with silence. Developers who once boasted about year-long waiting lists are now throwing out deals, left and right 3 months free, no deposits, and even offering concert tickets just to get people in the door. What caused this sudden downturn? The tech sector in Austin took a serious blow. Mass layoffs from major players like Meta, Oracle, and Tesla wiped out many of the high-income renters who had been fueling the city's rapid growth. The nickname Silicon Hills, once a point of pride, now seems painfully ironic. Upscale towers like the Independent and 70 Rainey are seeing vacancy rates not seen in years. Even East Austin, the city's creative hub, is feeling the squeeze as landlords slash prices to attract tenants in a saturated market. Those who heavily invested during the real estate boom are now bearing the consequences. Investors who paid premium prices for high-end condos, assuming an unending demand, are watching their profits dwindle, crushed under the weight of rising interest rates and a shrinking tenant pool. For renters, however, this marks a long-awaited shift in power. The city that once seemed unaffordable overnight is now showing signs of breaking down, gradually restoring control to those who actually call it home and work there. In 2025, Austin's story is clear. The city that experienced the fastest growth is now experiencing a rapid decline, and its downturn is shaking up the entire Sunbelt region. Next up, number 9. Miami, Florida. The rental surge in Miami wasn't just notable, it was absolutely breathtaking. Fueled by people relocating during the pandemic, an influx of crypto millionaires, and international buyers seeking prestige and sunshine, Miami quickly became the ultimate playground for the rich and remote workers. From 2020 to 2022, rents didn't just increase, they skyrocketed. Soaring over 60%, locals were priced out of the market, and sleek new high-rise condos became symbols of excess and luxury. But by 2025, the dream has faded, revealing a stark reality. Rents have dropped by about 11% in just a year, and vacancy rates are climbing steadily in areas like Brickell, downtown Miami, and Miami Beach. Those high-end condos, once boasting breathtaking ocean views and extravagant amenities like rooftop pools, are now scrambling to offer every incentive imaginable. Free parking, waived move-in fees, and even gift cards where thousands are being handed out in hopes of securing a tenant. But it's not just the drop in demand that's causing problems. Increasing costs are piling on. Insurance premiums have tripled, leaving property owners barely breaking even, while HOA fees are sharply rising as buildings struggle to meet Florida's stricter post-collapse safety regulations. The result? Countless investors are losing money month after month. Some properties, once valued at $900,000, are now struggling to sell for $700,000, with many sitting unsold for months. Airbnb hosts, who once profited from a steady stream of vacationers, are now packing up as a slowdown in tourism and rising maintenance costs erode their profits. Even foreign investors, who have long been the backbone of Miami's real estate market, are pulling back, spooked by the increasing risks of storms and the growing number of special assessments. From a distance, Miami still looks like a picture-perfect destination, with turquoise waters and a skyline gleaming in the sun. But beneath the shiny exterior, the numbers simply don't add up anymore. In 2025, Miami stands as a cautionary tale for other cities experiencing rapid growth. The city, once seen as a symbol of endless prosperity, is now learning the hard lesson that when luxury outpaces reality, even paradise can crack. At number 8, we have Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta was once hailed as the exception, the southern city that seemed to have it all. With a thriving job market, affordable homes, and a steady stream of newcomers from both coasts, it appeared to be the perfect place to invest. Developers jumped in, pouring billions into massive apartment complexes, stretching from Midtown all the way to Sandy Springs. Between 2021 and 2024, more than 50,000 new rental units flooded the market in Austin, far surpassing the city's actual capacity to absorb them. By 2025, that initial enthusiasm has quickly evaporated. Rents have dropped around 9% compared to the previous year, and vacancies are rising steadily across nearly all neighborhoods. Developers who once boasted about waiting lists are now feeling the pressure. High-rise buildings that used to be fully occupied within days are now half-empty. Landlords are offering every incentive they can think of: several months of free rent, free parking, and no security deposits, desperately trying to attract tenants. But the issue isn't just oversupply. The deeper problem lies in affordability. Wage growth has stagnated, inflation has eaten away at household savings, and the return of student loan payments is hitting younger renters, particularly millennials and Gen Z. More people are opting to share housing, move back with their parents, or leave the city altogether. Even suburbs that were once considered immune to the downturn, such as Cobb, Gwinnett, and Henry County, are feeling the impact. Single-family rentals that once disappeared in a flash are now sitting on the market, and short-term rental owners are slashing prices to stay afloat. For years, Atlanta was hailed as a model of sustainable and affordable growth. But now, it's becoming a cautionary tale of what happens when growth exceeds demand. The cranes kept working long after the need had been filled, and the city didn't collapse in an instant. It was a gradual squeeze. Developers focused on luxury instead of basic needs, and landlords assumed tenants would continue stretching their budgets. As reality caught up, the consequences followed. By 2025, even one of the Sunbelt's most stable markets has been swept into the storm, and recovering equilibrium will prove much harder than anyone expected. Now, let's move on to number 7. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas is a city defined by extremes: big wins, bigger losses. And in 2025, it's the landlords feeling the sting. For a long time, it seemed like nothing could stop the city's growth. People fleeing California sought cheaper housing, and investors scooped up properties as fast as they could. Short-term rentals exploded across the valley, and the boom seemed endless, but that momentum has evaporated this year. Since 2023, rents have dropped by nearly 10%, and vacancy rates have almost doubled. Large apartment complexes in areas like Henderson and Summerlin now have entire sections sitting empty. The Strip may still sparkle, but the reality beneath the glitz is far less glamorous. The rental market is oversaturated, and tourism, the lifeblood of Las Vegas, has yet to fully recover. Casinos are hiring fewer workers. Conventions aren't drawing the crowds they once did, and service employees are earning smaller tips. Meanwhile, thousands of Airbnbs, once thriving on weekend travelers, are flooding the long-term market as owners desperately try to salvage their income. Homes that once commanded $2,400 per month are now struggling to find tenants even at $1,900, with little interest either way. Landlords who purchased properties at peak pandemic prices are slashing rents just to break even, and many small investors who hoped for quick returns are quietly selling off properties at a loss to avoid further financial strain. Despite the oversupply, new units keep coming. Developers are completing projects approved during the height of optimism, flooding the market with more luxury apartments that few renters are interested in. In 2025, Las Vegas feels like déjà vu echoes of the 2008 housing crisis, now playing out in a new era. The city is once again dealing with the fallout of over-the-top speculation and unrealistic expectations. The neon lights may still shine, and the skyline remains as stunning as ever, but behind the facade, the cracks are showing. When speculation gets too far ahead of reality, even Las Vegas can't avoid the consequences. And this time, the house isn't winning, it's the landlords who are losing. Next, we look at number 6, Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, once the crown jewel of the Sunbelt's rapid growth, is cooling off faster than anyone predicted. Not long ago, it was a shining example of booming population growth and sky-high demand. Families from all over California, the Midwest, and beyond flocked to the city, pushing construction into overdrive and driving rent prices up at breakneck speed. Developers couldn't build new communities fast enough. Entire neighborhoods in areas like Chandler, Glendale, and Mesa sprang up seemingly overnight, all built on the promise of continuous expansion and stability. But by 2025, that optimism has completely evaporated. The city is now facing a massive surplus of housing, with over 30,000 new apartments added to the market in just 1 year, far more than Phoenix can support. Between 2021 and 2024, over 50,000 new rental properties were introduced to Phoenix, far surpassing the city's ability to absorb them. By 2025, that optimistic boom has come to an abrupt halt. Rent prices have dropped by about 12%, and property owners are scrambling to offer every incentive imaginable: free rent, furnished units, prepaid utilities, just to stand out in a saturated market. Buildings that were once highly sought after and had extensive waiting lists are now struggling to attract tenants. The city's skyline, still dotted with cranes and gleaming towers, might seem lively, but the financial foundation is beginning to crack. Insurance costs have soared, and maintenance expenses are climbing, leaving investors who bought at premium prices during the pandemic's property rush stuck with properties worth less than their loans. The pressure isn't confined to landlords alone. Phoenix's job market is also feeling the squeeze. With high interest rates, slower population growth, and stalled corporate expansions, the influx of newcomers has slowed, and fewer paychecks are available to support the city's massive housing inventory. From downtown to the outer regions of the East Valley, property owners are confronting a harsh truth. Rapid, unchecked growth without sustainable demand inevitably leads to collapse under its own weight. By 2025, Phoenix isn't just cooling down, it's in the midst of a full-scale correction. The metro area, which was planned with an expectation of housing 10 million people, is now realizing that demand supports fewer than 8 million. The era of unrestricted expansion has reached its limit, and the consequences are becoming painfully clear. Next, let's move to number 5, Dallas, Texas. For years, Dallas seemed invincible. Major corporations continuously moved to the city, drawing waves of young professionals who filled upscale apartments and fueled suburban expansion. Investors saw Dallas as the thriving economic engine of Texas, a market so diverse and fast-growing that it could never slow down. However, by 2025, that belief has been shattered. Rents in key areas like Uptown, Plano, and Frisco have dropped by 10%, and vacancies in top-tier buildings are at their highest in over a decade. The city's skyline still shines brightly at night, but behind the shimmering towers, landlords are feeling the pressure. The reason is simple. Developers overbuilt, adding far more units than the market could realistically absorb. From 2021 to 2024, thousands of new apartments were completed, just as potential tenants began pulling back. Rising inflation and persistently high interest rates have weakened the purchasing power of residents. Many people are opting to downsize, share living spaces, or move back with family. In response, landlords are rolling out incentives they had hoped to avoid: free utilities, waived parking fees, and upfront rent discounts. Investors who relied on consistent cash flow are now seeing their margins disappear as insurance premiums and property taxes increase. Once seen as a model of unstoppable prosperity, Dallas is now grappling with a feedback loop of excess luxury units and a lack of affordable housing. Even the city's robust corporate sector can't save the rental market. With hiring freezes in tech and finance sectors, the flow of new residents seeking apartments has slowed significantly, and long-term residents are being priced out of their neighborhoods. Dallas may still look stunning from a distance, but on the ground, the dynamics are changing rapidly. The city that once seemed like an engine with limitless fuel is learning that even in Texas, the engine can stall. Now, number 4. Boise, Idaho. Boise emerged as the unexpected darling during the pandemic. A peaceful mountain city, it quickly became a hotspot for those seeking more space, beautiful landscapes, and a slower pace of life. With major metropolitan areas like San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland on lockdown, remote workers flocked to Boise, driving up home prices and rents to sky-high levels. Developers scrambled to build new housing, convinced that the demand would never dwindle. But by 2025, the demand has faded, and the market is showing clear signs of strain. Rent prices have dropped by about 13% year over year, and vacancy rates are climbing faster than in any other city in the Mountain West. Apartments in downtown Boise, once snapped up within days, are now sitting empty for months at a time. Developers who rushed to build luxury complexes aimed at high-tech professionals are now facing a tough reality. The city's core workforce, teachers, nurses, baristas, and service workers, simply didn't earn Silicon Valley wages. During the boom, they watched rents soar past $2,000 a month, only to see the influx of Californians who drove up those prices pack up and head back home. The once promising market has now hit a significant roadblock as the demand for high-end rentals fades and affordable housing remains scarce. As remote work declines and migration from other states slows, Boise's once thriving housing market is faltering on fragile ground. Even the suburbs Meridian, Nampa, and Eagle, once highly sought after, are now facing setbacks. Construction sites that once buzzed with activity have fallen silent. Building materials sit unused, gathering dust. Investors, who had expected endless profits, are now selling properties at a loss, desperately trying to avoid further financial damage. Local businesses that thrived on the influx of new residents are also feeling the pinch. Coffee shops, breweries, and restaurants that once thrived on a constant flow of fresh faces are now cutting back hours or shutting down altogether. Landlords, too, are feeling the squeeze. They're offering increasingly attractive deals, slashing rents by $300, $400, and even $500, while throwing in free rent months and upgrades to try and fill empty units. But despite these dramatic concessions, many properties remain unoccupied. The skyline, once a symbol of growth and opportunity, now feels stagnant, as if the city's momentum has hit pause. Boise's tale is both poignant and difficult. The city that attracted people looking for an escape from the chaos of larger cities is now a prime example of what happens when migration slows and the excitement fades. The Great Escape has ended, and reality has rushed back in with full force. Next up is number 3, Seattle, Washington. For the first time in over a decade, Seattle's iconic skyline feels unsettled, almost as if it's telling a different story than it did before. After a decade of relentless expansion, skyrocketing rents, and constant construction, 2025 has brought a sobering shift. Rents have dropped by around 10%, and those once prized high-rises, which once symbolized unlimited opportunities, now feature empty floors and increasingly frustrated landlords. A major reason for this downturn is the unraveling of the tech sector. Layoffs at giants like Amazon and Microsoft, coupled with the collapse of several startups, have gutted the renter base that once fueled the city's housing boom. Buildings that used to boast about long waiting lists are now offering cash incentives, months of free rent, and any other perk imaginable just to attract tenants. In areas like Capitol Hill, South Lake Union, and Belltown, where discounts were once unheard of, luxury apartments are now advertising price cuts. And this shift isn't confined to downtown Seattle. Suburban areas like Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland are seeing the same patterns. Renewal rates are dropping, longtime residents are moving out, and developers who relied on a constant stream of high-income renters are watching their inventory pile up. Several major projects have been halted or quietly abandoned, leaving half-finished structures standing as silent monuments to the belief that demand would always outstrip supply. But the most profound change in Seattle isn't just about numbers. It's about the shifting mindset. The pandemic changed the way people view work and lifestyle. Many of those who once flocked to Seattle for its tech scene and prestige are now opting for smaller, quieter cities or moving to states where their income stretches farther. While the outward migration may not be massive, it's steady, and each household that leaves weakens the city's foundation just a bit more. Landlords are feeling the change as renters regain leverage, negotiating for lower rents, more flexible terms, and concessions that seemed unthinkable only a few years ago. The sleek glass towers that once embodied ambition and innovation are now reflecting a sobering reality. The market is not invincible. In 2025, Seattle's stunning skyline remains, but beneath the surface lies fragility, a stark reminder that even a tech-powered economy has its limits. The tremors shaking the city aren't from the earth. They're the result of an industry learning the hard truth that growth can't continue indefinitely. Now, let's move on to number 2. San Francisco, California. If there's one city that truly embodies the idea of collapse, it's San Francisco. Once seen as the pinnacle of American innovation, the city's rental market has now deteriorated into something nearly unrecognizable. Rents have plummeted by 15% in just a year, and vacancy rates in the downtown core have shattered previous records. High-end buildings that once commanded $4,000 per month are now struggling to find tenants, even when rents are reduced to $3,000. With incentives added on top, the tech exodus that began during the pandemic never reversed. Remote work didn't fade away, it became the new norm. The downtown area, once buzzing with startups, venture capital, and ambitious entrepreneurs, has transformed into a quiet corridor of empty offices and vacant apartments. Entire city blocks now look like ghost towns, with "for lease" signs that seem to have become permanent fixtures. Landlords who once boasted about easy income are now pleading for tenants. Costs, property taxes, insurance, and maintenance have risen sharply, to the point where profits have completely evaporated. Investors who purchased properties at the peak of the market are now stuck, unable to refinance without incurring significant losses. And beyond the financial issues, there's something more damaging: the emotional and psychological toll of seeing the city's vibrancy drain away. San Francisco, once a symbol of endless opportunity and progress, is now grappling with the harsh reality that the very foundation of its economy tech has faltered. The city is witnessing firsthand the consequences of an over-reliance on a single industry, and as the once unstoppable tech boom fades, the city's future remains uncertain. Concerns surrounding safety, homelessness, and the overall quality of life in San Francisco have caused many renters to move away faster than any rent discount can attract them back. Once a popular destination, many people who might have chosen to live in San Francisco are now opting for cities like Sacramento or Austin places, offering more space, lower stress, and a sense of stability. The city's local culture is also taking a hit. Restaurants, boutique shops, and art galleries that once defined the city's unique charm are closing their doors. With every closure, the city loses a little bit more of what made it special and vibrant. Even the tech identity, which once defined the region, is starting to fade. Major companies are quietly leaving their headquarters behind, relocating to more affordable, cleaner, and easier to manage hubs. The irony is hard to ignore. San Francisco, the city that once set the standard for sky-high housing prices, is now showing how dramatically the market can fall when the very elements that supported it begin to disappear. The decline of San Francisco isn't just a brief dip, it represents a significant transformation, marked by vacant storefronts and buildings that were once symbols of innovation. It's a stark reminder of what can happen when progress outpaces sustainability. Now, let's talk about the number one city on our list: New York City. For decades, New York's rental market was considered untouchable. No matter the crisis, whether recessions, pandemics, or market crashes, demand for housing always came roaring back. But in 2025, that long-held belief is beginning to crumble. Average rents in Manhattan have dropped about 12%, and parts of Brooklyn and Queens are seeing declines as steep as 15%. For the first time in decades, renters are in control, not landlords. Incentives that disappeared years ago are making a strong return, including free months of rent, waived deposits, and even upgraded appliances, all in an effort to make properties more appealing. Developers who poured millions into luxury buildings between 2021 and 2023 were confident that wealth would continue flooding into the city. Instead, many of their glistening towers now overlook nearly empty streets. A wave of layoffs in the finance, tech, and media industries has taken a toll on the city's high-earning renters. Meanwhile, international buyers, once the invisible force powering Manhattan's economy, are retreating due to global instability, rising costs, and tax hikes. Even the wealthiest individuals are starting to pull back. High-end apartments along Billionaires' Row are being discounted by significant amounts, while owners of mid-tier buildings are struggling with harsh refinancing terms that are choking their cash flow. For smaller landlords, the once unimaginable word foreclosure is now being whispered more and more. Young professionals who once prioritized living in tiny Manhattan apartments are now looking elsewhere. Cities like Charlotte, Nashville, and Philadelphia are becoming increasingly attractive, offering more space and far less financial strain. While New York still holds its unique energy, its speed, culture, and chaotic beauty, fewer people can keep up with the skyrocketing cost of living. The downturn in New York is not explosive. It's gradual, but unmistakably real. The city is tightening its grip, recognizing that even the biggest, most dynamic cities have limits. For the first time in a long while, New Yorkers are acknowledging the unspoken truth. The era of sky-high rents may be nearing its end. Across the country, something bigger is happening. A quiet revolution is reshaping America's housing market. For the first time in over a decade, renters are holding the upper hand. The days of chaotic bidding wars, last-minute applications, and endless rent hikes are giving way to vacant apartments, declining prices, and landlords scrambling to adapt. But this shift is not just about numbers, it's a shift in mindset. Millions of Americans are starting to question whether renting or buying is still a viable option in an economy where the cost of living continues to rise while wages stagnate. Developers chased luxury. Renters sought homes they could afford. Investors hunted for returns. Families sought stability. And now, that imbalance is catching up with everyone. Some cities may recover, while others may shrink. But the lesson is clear. No housing market can escape the reality forever. You've been watching Through American Eyes, your go-to source for cinematic deep dives into the transformations shaping America. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video, because what we're seeing in the rental market today is just the beginning. And as always, the numbers tell the story.